Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to the all audio, my computer completely crashed version of our Y&R chat for Sunday, September 18th. I'm so annoyed. My computer is decimated. It's on its last legs. It's gonna be a miracle if I'm gonna be able to get this message out to you. This is like a Y&R SOS. I'm shooting out into the sky, and also just a heads up that it may be difficult for me to post a video next week. I'm going to be looking into getting a new computer this week. Hopefully it'll come this week. I can get it set up and I can be back on track, but I just want to give you guys a heads up that I may be limited in my ability to communicate with you. But at the very least, hopefully I'll be able to get some audio versions out just so that we can at least keep the conversation going. And I'm pretty excited actually to see Billy back on the scene, and naturally I think I am really appalled with Victor. I know I've forgiven Victor for a lot of things, and I don't know why I'm surprised, but this has got to be some kind of new level. Delia is in the hospital, fighting for her life, needing to get a bone marrow donor, which Billy might be the only person who can do that. And Victor flies out to somewhere in Asia where Billy has been thrown into jungle jail. Only Billy could get his ass thrown in jungle jail. And Victor finds him, reaches out almost his hand to save him, but in the same breath is telling him, look, I'll get you out of this jungle jail if you never see Victoria again. And to boot, by the way, I mean, when Billy's like, forget it, old man, I'd rather stay in jail, Victor's like, oh yeah, and your daughter has cancer. Dare Victor use this situation with Delia as a bargaining chip to his own advantage, to try to get Victoria and Billy apart, to try to keep them apart. Victor is pretty much at this point holding him hostage. He gets him out of jail. I mean, Billy has no choice. His daughter is sick. Of course he has to go back to Genoa City. Victor is holding him hostage in his trailer. At the trailer. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, I can't believe Victor is doing this. I mean, I can totally believe that Victor is doing this. It's just so absurd. Victor ends up calling in Kevin, of all people, to help him enact this elaborate plan. Victor has decided that he wants Billy to be able to help his daughter, but he wants Billy to stay away from his daughter. So he has come up with this plan to have Kevin help him, which, of course, Kevin is completely resistant, does not want to do it, but at least someone there is thinking about Delia and only Delia. And Victor says, okay, we're going to get a bone marrow, we're going to get the sample from Billy to find out if he's a match, and because we all know that Chloe's going to want to know who the donor is, we're going to have Kevin basically be a ghost donor. We're going to have Kevin put his name on the test so that if it does come up as a match, which I think we all know it will, then Kevin is going to get he's going to get the credit, which has to make him feel incredibly uncomfortable. And Kevin has, at this point, already taken his test. He knows that he's not a match. And now, because Victor has dragged him into this elaborate plan, he's going to have to lie to Chloe. He's being forced into this horrible situation. Of course, he's doing it for Delia, in Delia's best interest, but it's just all bunk. Part of me just wants Billy to just punch Victor in the face and go on about his life and run to the hospital and be with Delia. I don't even I don't even, like, the logic isn't even there for me, because, Billy just has to be this weakened, beaten man at this point, or I don't think he would be going along with it. I mean, what if he isn't a match for Delia? Then is he just going to run off again, even though his daughter has cancer? So I don't know. Maybe Billy's just been so foggy from where he's been and whatever trouble he got into, which I hope we find out what exactly it was. But it's even the logic is not helping me here, and Victor's logic is not really making sense to me. I mean, does Victor think he's helping? Does Victor honestly believe that he's doing the best thing? He's delaying so much, and he's sticking his nose in where it doesn't belong, and he's making the situation worse. Victor is keeping a child apart from her father when she needs him the most. Delia's lying in bed. She's wondering where her father is. All around there are memories of her father. And she can't have him. And, it annoys me about Victor that everything always has to be about him. Well, you know what, Victor? Not everything is about you. Not everything is about your family. And what's going on with Delia far freaking outweighs what's going on with Billy and Victoria. I mean, Billy and Victoria were pretty much already drifting apart when Billy left, thanks in no small part to Victor. It was Victor who set Billy up to look like he was gonna sleep with this other woman. I frankly would not be surprised if whatever trouble Billy got into in Asia, Victor was behind it. Victor probably made sure that Billy got thrown into jail. It's the lengths that he will go to is absurd, and in the long run, nothing is going to keep Victoria and Billy apart if they want to be together. And meanwhile, back at home, Victoria is getting close with Sam, and she's playing board games with him, and it's all very cute, and it's reminding her of her relationship with Billy and all of the cute, fun things that they used to do together. And I have to say, there were some flashbacks of Billy and Victoria this week, at the arcade, and just playing their own games that really reminded me why I did like Billy and Victoria in the past. He brings out a side of her that I have never seen in the past with Victoria, and I like that about Billy and Victoria. And I hope that the relationship that's going on between Victoria and Sam is just a friendship. I don't want it to turn into anything romantic, because neither of them are in a place where they need to get involved with one another. I hope it's just a friendship. And if it is just a friendship, I think that's nice. I think that maybe Sam is helping her through some hard stuff. I don't know what Billy is going to think about Sam staying there if he comes back into the picture. But for now, I think Sam is helping her, and maybe also helping her to kind of realize that she really does love Billy and really does want him back. And on his side, Billy has all of this stuff going on with Delia, and of course he has to put that first, but in the back of his mind, we know he's thinking about Victoria. Maybe it's because Victor wants him to stay apart from her, but I think that has been part of the draw always, that Victor does not want Billy and Victoria together has been part of the pull between them. It creates this situation of wanting something that you can't have, and that's there now, and we know that in the back of Billy's mind, he's still thinking about Victoria, and he's gonna find his way back to her sooner or later. But for now, of course, his focus is on Delia, and as soon as Victor slips out of the trailer, gives Billy lets Billy off his leash for even a moment, Billy puts on his hoodie and dashes off into the night and arrives at the hospital in order to, and just in time to see Delia alone. There's a moment where she's alone, and he's able to go in and sit by her bedside. And I have to tell you, the moment that Billy walked into the room and saw his daughter hooked up to all these machines was so, it like the tears welled up in his eye, and he just almost reverted to this, he must just be in this sort of shell of a man sort of place, because when he looked at her, it just like it was an arrow through his heart. I think, he was so sweet, he was so tender, just looking at her saying, "We're gonna get through this, baby," and just it was very emotional. I totally enjoyed it, totally believe it. Let me tell you, guys, my heart wept. Nick was super understanding with Phyllis this week. After last week, he walked in on Phyllis and Avery having their argument. He had a chance to speak with Phyllis this week about this lie that she's been telling, and he was so understanding toward her. I don't know how you could not be. Phyllis is standing there looking at him, hating herself, saying, I'm a liar, that's why I did it, because I'm just a liar. And she's clearly torn apart over this lie. And, on one level, just the lie that she's told, but even though she says it doesn't bother her that she left her little sister in this horrible family situation, I think it clearly does. I think that Phyllis has a heart, and whatever happened in that house hurt Phyllis so deeply that she just blocked it out. And I can identify with that. Sometimes, it's just easier to pretend like something didn't happen. And that's what she did. She just turned around, ran in the other direction, and never looked back. And I think it's all of the memories, all of the emotions are starting to come back to her now. And she's just now, finally, after all of these years, having to reconcile them. And I'm still so curious to know what exactly happened in that house. What was it? What was the horrible thing? Because, she's making references to Avery being in, pigtails and braces. And so it's not like, if the parents at least kind of seemed like they sort of cared about the kids, to give Avery braces. That's a sort of a, not every kid gets braces. So what is it? I want to know, it doesn't sound to me like they were beaten. Or maybe it was just that they were emotionally neglected. I don't know. It's whatever it is, it seems dark, and I gotta know. I want to know the secret. But it seems that both Phyllis and Avery have turned out to be relatively normal. Avery is fighting for the underdog. She's doing her best to continue to work on Sharon's case. She's starting to get up close to Adam. There was a lot of tension between Adam and Avery this week. Avery wants him to flip, to testify on Sharon's behalf. What she found out, though, was that the prosecution has already called Adam to testify on their behalf. So, of course, I think within the next week or two, it will be interesting to see what Adam says on the stand about Sharon. And if this weird tension between Adam and Avery is going to play into it, because I really wouldn't be surprised if a romance were to blossom there too, because there's some pull, and I'm curious to see how it might develop. But an interesting development here too is that Adam almost seems to have a little bit of a soft spot back for Sharon. He did his best to try to pretend like his whole relationship with her didn't happen and block it out because it hurt so much. But my instinct is telling me that he still loves Sharon. Sharon is still the woman for him, and he might just pull through for her. Of course, by the way, I know, my friend in Australia called this forever ago, that they were going to be dragging the creek to find that memory card. What happened with that? Where's the dragging the creek? Or where are we on the memory card status? It's been 2 weeks since they even mentioned that. So let's get on that ASAP. Let's get this Sharon trial over with already. But I digress. Important development this week, I think, or maybe it's just peripheral, but I like it. Adam has had his vision restored. Adam can see. It's been, it's been at least 2 years, I would say, since Adam started to lose his vision. And in some parts of my mind, I almost wondered if he ever was losing his vision. But, we saw all those Adam cam shots that suggest that he was truly going blind. And now he's had this experimental procedure and he can see again. And I'm almost wondering if that's not something that was life-changing for him, because we often forget that about Adam, that he was going blind. And he said something about how the world was just slowly growing darker for him. And I found that to be really moving, and also a facet of his personality that maybe we don't consider all of the time, that this is a guy who's losing his sight, and that's not a small deal, that's a big deal. And maybe when he got this surgery, that opened his eyes in a kind of metaphorical sort of way, because the first thing he does when he gets back into town after this experimental surgery is he goes to see Sharon. And it's also an interesting little moment, too, was that Sharon's sitting in that, waiting room or that community room. And before she even realizes that Adam's there, she senses him in the background. Adam walks into the background and Sharon almost gets a chill and turns around and sees that it's Adam standing there before any words were spoken. I thought that was a very, very poignant moment. And Adam comes to her and he wants to see her. He wants to see her for the first time in a new way, and I think he wants to share this joy with her. But unfortunately, Sharon is not feeling sympathetic toward him. What he did to her was cruel. The whole marriage in the courthouse thing was cruel. And so she does not give him a warm reception, and I think that hurt Adam's little heart when she did that. And so he goes off, leaves Sharon, probably feeling a little bitter, and he ends up running into Heather later. And he thanks her for being the one to let him go off and do his thing, go off for this experimental surgery. She was the person that kind of okayed it from the legal standpoint. And he's standing there kind of sharing his feeling with her, and she's sympathizing. She's being super nice toward him. And, and he kind of is like, he says to Heather in a way like, well, I'm glad somebody can be happy for me. He didn't say it exactly like that, but I got that vibe. Like, well, I'm glad you're happy for me, Heather, because Sharon certainly wasn't. Well, what did you expect? Did you expect Sharon to just come, throw herself right into your arms? I mean, Sharon's not about playing games. That's never been the nature of their relationship. The nature of their relationship has always been honesty. So you can't imagine that she's just going to be fine with the little game that he played with her in the courthouse. I mean, I guess I understand Sharon's perspective when she was away and why she pursued that relationship with Sam. She thought that her life in Genoa City was over, and she was doing what she needed to do to move on. It wasn't about not loving Adam. It was never about not loving Adam. She never hurt him on purpose. He was hurting her on purpose. And it's, I still miss Adam and Sharon in some ways, but and the memory card, letting her rot in jail. I can't forgive him for that. That he doesn't deserve to have her come to him with open arms. I just, again, I don't know what he could possibly expect. But Heather was there to sympathize with him. How annoying. And there's going to be, I think, a little side storyline developing with Paul's son, Ricky. His son with Isabella? I'm pulling this just totally out of my mind. I've done no research. Is it Isabella? Isabella, I believe, played by Ava Longoria in the 90s. They had a son together. We never heard anything from them. Paul has a bad habit of not raising his own kids, because apparently Ricky was raised by by his grandparents, Isabella's parents, because she went off to jail after being completely crazy and trying to kill Christine, if memory serves. And now Ricky's back, and he is he's working with Avery on Sharon's case, and there was a little reveal moment where we realized that Ricky and Heather are going to be working on opposite sides of this case. So that's a little side storyline that's developing there. I guess my question to the world is, does anyone care? Does anyone care about Heather and Ricky? Okay, so Devon he's thinking he's a big man now. He's got this job with Catherine's company and this fake record label that she's starting. It's not fake. It's going to be a real company, but it's clearly like a bone being thrown in Devon's direction, which just makes me feel really horrible for him. But now suddenly Devon has this job with Catherine, and he thinks he's getting big for his britches. And Neal is kind of, I think, being really fair toward Devon. There's been just a little bit, it's sort of been creeping in of Devon's attitude toward Neal as if Neal never really supported Devon's music career dreams. Now, true, I think Neal would have been happier if Devon would have pursued a business career, would have come to work at Newman or Chancellor or whatever with him, and they would have lived happily ever after. I think Neal would have loved that. However, I have always felt that Neal did the best he could to support Devon's dream. I think Neal has been nothing but a supportive and awesome father to a son that isn't biologically his and that he wasn't necessarily warm to in the first place. When Drew brought Devon into the picture, Neal wasn't necessarily completely happy about it. Drew fell in love with him, wanted to help his kid, saw something in him, and it took a little while for Neal to get on board. But once he was on board, he loved Devon like he was his own son, unequivocally. And now Devon is getting his new legs, and he's thinking he's a big shot, music producer guy, and he's buying these expensive pieces of art, and he's bringing his giant piece of art that he's bought around to all of the restaurants in Genoa City. Literally, he got the package while he was at the athletic club, and he opened this original art piece in front of everybody, and he's touting it around like, "Oh, everybody look at my expensive art piece." And then he brought it to the coffee house later, he's shopping it around, bringing it around with him like it was his date. Just showing everybody, look at my expensive piece of art. And the thing that kind of gets me here is that Devon Neal questioned it a little bit. Neal was like, "Hey, Devon, do you think you might be getting a little ahead of yourself there, buying, a piece of, art that was a couple $1,000s probably, and, do you really haven't done anything for this business yet? Do you think maybe you might hold off on the spending a bunch of money thing?" And Devon's response was, "It's a business thing. I'm going to have it hanging behind me in my office so that people know I'm a player." But he bought it with his own money. It may be a business thing, but he bought it with his own money. And I feel like Neal is being fair here. I'm probably alone. I know there's some Devon fans out there, and I'm interested to hear your reaction on this, because I feel like that is the exact definition of counting your eggs before they've hatched. That's exactly what Devon is doing. So I feel like Neal is being fair, and I don't exactly even know where all of this hostility toward Neal is coming from. What did Neal do that has got Devon so mad at him? I mean, I feel like, Devon, don't forget who got you where you are, okay? Because if it weren't for Neal, you would never have had this opportunity. Never. And I just feel like Devon is looking like a bit of a fool here now. He doesn't know that Catherine is doing this because he's secretly her grandson. But doesn't he suspect an ulterior motive? Doesn't he go, "Hey, that's kind of weird that Catherine would hire me to head up a major record label for a major corporation when I haven't really even had a job. I haven't produced any records. He's produced 0 records. And suddenly Catherine's giving him this golden opportunity." Doesn't he question that a little bit? I don't know. It's just he's getting a little big for his britches. I think he thinks he's a big man, and he's rubbing me the wrong way a little bit. I'm sorry, Devon fans, but he really is. I think that his little world, though, unfortunately, and I'm not happy to see this, but I think his little world is going to start to unravel here pretty quick, because Paul is straight up giving Catherine an ultimatum. He's saying, "You know what? You may have hired me to find out who Tucker's son was, and I may have signed a confidentiality agreement, but there is a point in my career where I have to choose between, what's right and what's wrong, and I'm going to choose what's right. And either you need to tell Tucker and Devon that they are father and son, or, like it or not, old lady, I will." Go Paul. The war between Catherine and Tucker continues. I thought it was a nice little twist this week that suddenly there was an issue with distribution of Jabot products for the holidays, and both Jack and Catherine are trying to figure out what it is that went wrong that's going to cause problems getting their products onto the shelves, and suddenly Jack just realizes, wait a minute, Tucker did this. Catherine stole the company right out from under Tucker. He has absolute motive to want to take Jabot down. Why not? So Jack ends up rallying the troops to try to rescue the situation, and he ended up doing a really great job. Tucker has made deals and bribes with some people, like, you know, to make sure that things are delayed, and Jack just gets everybody together into one room and says, look, I'm Jack Abbott, I'm an awesome businessman, and I'm gonna, whatever it is, you know, I'm gonna make it right. This is what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna offer you extra bonus stuff. And he just got in there. Like, Jack is a natural business guy. He just slickly just laid it out, and he fixed the problem. I mean, he just fixed the problem, and I'm really proud of him for that. I thought this was a shining moment for Jack. And while he was out fixing the problem, Catherine and Tucker just stood around, arguing with each other, issuing threats, just like all they ever do. And by the time they were done, tit for tatting, Jack comes back into the office saying, guess what? While you guys were just standing here, I fixed the whole thing. I fixed it all. And then, just to rub kind of salt in the wound, or just to show that he to one up both Catherine and Tucker, he looks right at Tucker and says, Tucker, you know what? You need to start getting used to losing. And Catherine, you need to respect my leadership. Just bam! I mean, it was just like, just Jack pwned them. I just kept thinking, right on, way to go. And ultimately, Tucker was kind of like, well, hey, he respected what Jack did. Catherine, on the other hand, just is like, hey, you know what, Jack? I don't care. You may have fixed this, but remember whose name is on the door. That's all she keeps coming back to, is remember whose name is on the company. You know, don't forget, Jabot is a Chancellor company. Why is she so evil right now? Just so evil. And at the very end of the week, it was Catherine's, once again, just inability to give Jack the leader, you know, to respect Jack's leadership, to let him do the job that she hired him to do, that made Jack ultimately decide to make a deal with Tucker to try to get the company out and away from Catherine. So look for that in the coming weeks. Catherine and Tucker and Jack working together to try to take Jabot away from Catherine. Other Tucker news. Ashley and Tucker are totally back together, which just makes me happy. I know that you guys probably don't feel as passionately about Ashley and Tucker as I do, but I just do. They just work for me. I like them together. I've never loved Ashley with anyone as much as I love her with Tucker. They just clearly are using the same hairstylist. And they just look like a great couple. I just love them. And everything was going so well. Ashley decided to move back in with Tucker, and everything was going awesome until Ashley gets another one of these photos in the mail at her place with Tucker. It was probably addressed to Tucker. I didn't catch that, but it might have been. A photo of Ashley strangling Diane in the park. Or reaching out to her or something. Basically incriminating. An incriminating piece of evidence by this blackmailer who has these goods on Ashley and Nick. So Ashley gets this package with this photo, and she's all freaked out. Well, meanwhile, Abby is still on her tear that it was Tucker that killed Diane. She believes that because he had the poison sumac on his hands that he was clearly, beyond reasonable doubt, the one who killed Diane Jenkins. So she goes to Ronan and she tells him, you know what? I want to do whatever I got to do to catch Tucker in this lie. And if that means I got to wear a wire and try to get him to confess, that's what I'll do. So Ronan sets it up so that Abby's gonna wear a wire in to talk to Tucker. So Abby goes up to Tucker's office while Ronan and this other guy are sitting out in the van listening, like totally classic style, listening to the conversation. And Abby goes into the Tucker's office / apartment, but guess what? Tucker's not there. Ashley is, and still spooked out over getting this photo from this blackmailer. Abby's got to tell somebody about it. Ashley's got to tell somebody about it. She called Nick, couldn't get him on the phone. Now Ashley's there, and Ashley just needs to confess. So she starts spilling her guts to Abby, saying that she was at the park on that night and with Diane, and the whole time it's being recorded and listened to by Ronan. So now there's this other piece of evidence against Ashley, and the entire time I'm thinking, Abby, just freaking run out, like start screaming, be like la 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 la, and run out. You do not need to destroy this evidence. Like, I would never let my mom get a word out. I would throw my mom down on the couch and put a pillow over her face before I would let her confess to a crime while I was wearing a wire. But I'm not Abby, and Abby is not me, and that is not what happened. The whole thing got caught. Ronan heard it. The only thing that Abby was able to do to cover it up was she took the little microphone that was part of her wire setup, and she threw it into Tucker's bedroom. And I don't know if this is a piece that will cause Ronan to not be able to recover the recording, but either way, Ashley and Tucker ended up finding it later, thought that Abby was recording them on purpose, and Ashley kind of put 2 and 2 together, and now Ashley's wise to what it was that Abby was doing. But anyway, you slice it, it's not good for Ashley, because Ronan has this extra information. He is looking to make a conviction. It's been a while. When are we going to find out who killed Diane Jenkins? It's like, I hate it when they do this. They just take a break from a major storyline for a month, and there's hardly any movement on it. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that Ashley is the one who killed Diane, but we know that Ronan needs to make a conviction on this. So it's not looking good for her, because I think that Ronan may just have her number and may just throw her in jail. I may not be a huge fan of Colin and Jill, but this week, Genevieve lured him to her house, took his phone, and locked him in the wine cellar and left town. He could have died in there. It's just this ongoing fight over Colin between Jill and Genevieve, and I'm wondering, I don't even know, do either of these women even want Colin at this point, or do they just want to beat the other one? They just want to one up the other one, because finally Jill and Colin are starting to get close, and Genevieve has to pull this trick. She blocks Colin in the wine cellar, goes away, and meanwhile, Jill has rented a room at the athletic club, and she's preparing for a romantic romp in the hay with Colin. I mean, she's pulling out all the stops. Like, she's there in her room in her silky nightgown. She's lighting candles. She's got the champagne chilling. She's fluffing the pillows on the bed. Just looking like a poor fool, because all the while Colin is trapped, can't get out, can't call her, and she just thinks that he stood her up. But that's not all. That wasn't even the end of Genevieve's plan. Genevieve, the bitch sent Jill a bouquet of flowers with a card saying, "I told you I could keep him away from you." Pitch! Wow. So Jill's crushed. Jill finally is starting to let Colin back in her life, and then she thinks that he's run away with Genevieve again. Jill ends up going to Genevieve's house, sees all of these, evidence that Colin was there. Of course he was there. He was actually there, but it certainly wasn't romantic. And then Genevieve had conveniently left a computer on with 2 boarding passes pulled up on the internet, like with Colin's, boarding pass on the same flight that she was going to be on. And Jill saw that and assumed that that Genevieve and Colin just ran away together, and that just dashed her little dreams for her little romantic reunion with Colin. So that was sad. But Colin, stuck in the wine cellar, was hilarious. Colin realizes real quickly that he ain't going nowhere. So he moves over to the back wall to try to find the most expensive bottle of wine he can, and he pops open the cork on a $3,000 bottle and starts drinking away. He figures, hey, if I've got to be here, I'm gonna get drunk. And he's just being his funny self. Like, this is the Colin that I like, when he's funny and wacky. Like, that's how I like him. I can appreciate that version of Colin, and it was actually really funny. And I'm feeling bad for him though. Like, my God, he could fall and hit his head and die in the wine cellar by the time Genevieve gets back. That's really irresponsible of her. But Colin got smart. He reaches over, he finds a fuse box in the cellar, and he pulls the fuse boxes or something to set off the house alarms. And so the alarms are going off in this big old mansion, and the police come, and apparently Genevieve had Gloria listed as her emergency contact person. So Gloria comes to the house to get the alarm set off, and decides that while she's there, she's going to do a little snooping around. So Gloria's walking around the place, looking around. She makes her way down to the wine cellar, hears Colin banging on the door, opens up the door, walks in, and slams the cellar door behind her. Now they're both stuck. Oh, Lily and Daniel. It seems that is over. It seems that, in fact, that relationship was over before it even began. Lily is not returning Daniel's phone calls at this point. He went to Neal, and he told Neal that Lily is letting Kane back into her life, and that caused Neal to chew Lily out. And Lily's felt like that was a breach of their friendship. She felt like, that Daniel shouldn't have gone to Neal, and she's not returning his phone calls. She's not having anything to do with him, and Daniel's crushed. Just like I predicted, just like I knew would happen, Daniel's crushed. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Lily and Kane are going to get back together. I don't know if maybe something might develop between Daniel and Eden. Because Eden and Daniel have been talking a lot lately. They've had a couple of cute scenes. I do recall that right when Eden came back onto the scene, Daniel made a comment to Kevin about his sister being kind of good looking. So I don't know. I wonder if that's the direction that we're headed instead. But I guess maybe that's what it needs to be, because I still have feelings for Lily and Kane. I can't get over them. It was really cute seeing Kane with his kids this week, and really sad that it has to be under supervised circumstances, and doubly sad that Lily won't be there while he's with them. She doesn't even want to be around him. She said something to him this week to the effect of, I stopped believing your lies about 100 lies ago. So I'm just going to get out of the house while you can see your kids, but this is about you being with your kids, not me and you. So she's not giving him any leeway at all, even though it was cute to see him with the kids. And it was really cute to see Kane with Delia this week. He made a trip to the hospital to see her, and sometimes I forget that at first when Chloe was pregnant, she was trying to make Kane think that he was the father. So Kane still has a soft spot in his heart for Delia. So he goes and he tries to talk to her, and he actually makes a suggestion that Lily talk to Delia, because Lily's been through chemo, and now that's what Delia's going through, and maybe they could kind of have this connection point, and it ended up working out really well. Lily comes to the hospital to talk to Delia, and I really liked it. I thought that meant a lot to me. I feel like Lily is so nice. Lily is such a nice person. I mean, trying to comfort this little girl and trying to make this connection with her and saying things like, when I was on chemo, I would just pretend that the doctor was a magic wizard, and just trying to make it, magical, and something magical out of a horrible situation. I'm watching this and I'm just thinking, what a sweetheart. I mean, I get the impression that some people don't like Lily, but what is not to like? If somebody, I want to know, that's a good question. If you don't like Lily, please tell me why. Because I look at her and her actions and I just think, what is there not to like? She's a gem. She's a doll. And there was also a moment where, Chloe was very touched by Cain being there with Delia, and she's telling him that he's a good father and that she hopes that, she doesn't forgive him for everything that he does, but she hopes that things, maybe even work out between him and Lily. And Lily walks in on it, and I think, despite her instincts, I think Lily is starting to open her heart up to Cain a little bit, just a little bit at a time. Well, we'll see where it takes us. Okay, oh my goodness, I can't even believe I talked this long. I hope I will be able to edit this file and upload it for you. If you've made it all the way to the end, then that's a good sign. If you're hearing this, that's a good sign. Oh, okay, well, I better get going, you guys. It's late in the day. This is a bit late. On top of everything, it's a late version of my YNR chat. But I wanted to talk to you about this week. It hurts my heart if I can't talk to you about the show for a week. But now it hurts my heart even more if I don't hear from you. So please find a way to leave me a comment. If you want to find me, you'll find me. If you wanna leave me your comment, you know how to do it. So let me know your thoughts. I love you guys. I'm gonna be thinking of you, and in one form or another, I will be in contact next week.